Hello, lovely ladies. We are slowly coming back to the end of this journey together. We will have one more guided journey, guided meditation, and it will be about the armoring the heart and experiencing the open heart and the free flow of love that is possible when the heart is open. And I will prepare and record that meditation for you tomorrow. And today, in this video, I want to speak about sovereignty, and especially one very foundational level of sovereignty, how I understand it. So you all responded to this invitation to join a group, Soulful Sovereign Woman. And both of these words have really deep and beautiful meaning. And today, let's talk about the sovereignty. While the meditations, in my felt sense, are more tapping into the soulfulness and nourishing the soulfulness, I want to speak directly to the sovereignty now. So just notice what kind of associations, mental images, and feelings come to your mind when you hear this word, sovereign, or maybe words, or like sensations in the body, sovereign woman. And I'll share some thoughts. This word, sovereign, can be perceived and explored and understood on many different levels. From like levels that are more like wide circles, kind of external in the sense of wide, towards like more inner, more close. So it can be perceived on a global level, on a political level, on all sorts of collective levels, like social level, interpersonal level. And like the most foundational, intimate level would be the inner sovereignty. And in my view, this is like really the foundation. Before that, all the other levels are just not possible. Or if they even happen, the sovereignty in relationships, without the inner sovereignty, it will be very superficial and not sustainable. And the level of inner sovereignty can be sometimes overlooked, but it's so important. And this is the level that I've done the most work on in my personal experiences and in my work with my clients, which are mostly women, like 80% at least of my clients are women. So what does it mean? Actually pause for another moment and just feel into what kind of feeling, sensation, mental image word comes to your mind when you hear inner sovereignty. For me, like the physical sensation and felt sense that the most reflects the inner sovereignty is being in my center, aware of everything else that is happening and being in my center, and then choosing and deciding and responding from my center without making all the different aspects of experience wrong, but also without collapsing into being a victim of what is activated in me. And I will elaborate on this more and give some examples. So it's like being centered, being in my center, witnessing and loving all the experience that is happening in the here and now, and choosing from the center. So feel into what does it mean to you to be in your center, And you can check if you can realize where in your body is your center right now. Moving on, there is this model that describes that we have many inner parts. And it's in a way it's a metaphor that there are different parts of us. And I think that actually it's very, very useful model. Although some teachers would say that it's like artificial, that there are inner parts because there is just one flow of consciousness. And perhaps on some level it is true. And yet being able to tap into inner parts and love them and understand them, I found it to be super helpful and useful. What are the inner parts? There are just ways of perceiving reality, of having certain focus, of experiencing reality, feeling, thinking in a certain way. And those inner parts have different needs, desires, but also different protection mechanisms that come usually from different wounds. Examples of those would be like inner child, for instance, and we can break the inner child down to like a spontaneous child that is just in the moment feeling what is alive right there. And the rebellious child that just always says no, is super focused on proving their independence and autonomy. And submissive child that is just really tracking what others want and need and just adjusting and accommodating so the child is getting approval or love or can survive. Other examples could be different archetypes that live with us, like friend, mother, father, sibling, or some magical archetypes that I love, like a healer, witch, shaman, sage, magician, wild woman connected to the instincts. And if you listened to the latest meditation, 3 Faces of the Sovereign Soul, you know about the triple goddess and this beautiful feminine archetypes of the crone, the wise old woman, the queen, the mother, and the maiden, the princess. So these are examples of inner parts. And those inner parts can be in conflict sometimes because they all have their different ways of perceiving reality and getting their needs met. If we are not sovereign, and I will give an example in a moment, if we are not sovereign, we are just under a spell of those inner parts. And the one that is the most activated in any given moment just rules, just takes the reins and rides the horse. I don't know, I'm making this expression up, but like drives the vehicle of our life, of our experience, of our responses to the world. And when we are sovereign, we are in the center and we are aware of all those inner parts. And also it includes the inner parts of the people around us that we are interacting with. And we have deep compassion. We are witnessing them. And we are not under their spell. We are not just collapsing to be taken by their reactivity. We are in our center, aware of what it is, and choosing from a place that is aligned with our values, with our heart, taking into consideration what else is there, and then choosing from the center. So let's go into an example. Let's imagine a woman called Suzy. I've never known any Suzy, but I like how this name sounds. So Suzy. Suzy is a lovely woman who has an experience of being a child of a father who yelled at her a lot when she was a child. So her inner child, this part of her, is conditioned to uh, avoid confrontation and mm, and also to be pleasing to others, like not to cause any trouble, agree with others, making sure that others feel okay, especially when they are upset and about to yell or yelling already. Like, so she's like a people pleaser and like peacemaker. And perhaps she also have this more rebellious part, like, don't you yell at me, like, don't you treat me this way, it's not okay with me. So this can be the two inner parts, like the people pleasing inner child that just doesn't want to be yelled at, that's afraid of it and will do anything that is in her power to avoid it, and the rebellious, a bit confrontational inner part that will like at any sign of someone being about to yell or yelling, like wants to fight it and defend herself, super defensive. And Suzy is at work. She's very good at her work, at her job. And that at the day, her boss is quite upset. And she's in her workplace, and the boss is upset and is raising his or her voice. And let's say that the inner child, that the people-pleasing inner child gets activated. And Suzy is like super nice and kind of really loses the sense of what she wants, what is her perspective, like gives lots of attention to her boss, and like all her mental resources are focused on how to make it better, how to make him stop yelling, stop raising his voice, how to please him. So when she's acting from that inner part, she's not really sovereign. She's not really in attunement with her own truth. She's under the spell of the people pleasing inner part. And it's very likely that she would like do something that she will regret afterwards, because it's not aligned with what she truly needs, wants, and believes in. Maybe she would agree to something that she doesn't want to do, or take a blame, or I don't know, abandon her sense of self in favor of the other to bring some peace and calmness. And then let's take it like one step further in the not sovereign scenario. And after we'll go to the sovereign one. So Suzy agreed to something that she didn't really want to do at work. And, like she's resenting her boss. She's really not happy with herself. And she comes back home, and her partner is somehow upset too, and she was hoping that, at home she can just maybe get some compassion, some being held, get some understanding. She could like come back to her center a little bit at home, and then she's seeing her husband, her partner maybe frowning or like looking for something nervously, and Suzy is not going to the people pleaser because like she's got enough of that. She's going into the rebellious part, and she becomes like super confrontational, and just without even saying hello, maybe just says something in a harsh voice, like, what is it now? I'm coming back home, and like, what is this tension here? What again? What now? Why is the entire world against me? or maybe she doesn't say anything, but she would just like make a dramatic gesture and like slam the doors and go to her room or something like that. But being like confrontational, rebellious. Again, taken by her inner part that was the most activated in that moment. So I'm hoping that you are getting a sense of what it feels like. And I'm sure that you know it from your own experience. Maybe you have like different inner parts and different patterns. But I'm sure if you're a human being, you know, if you have like degree of consciousness, and if you are here, you have certain degree of awareness and consciousness. You know how it is to be like taken by this inner part of you that was like really activated, and then you've done something that you regretted afterwards. And now let's go to the same external circumstances but different scenario in which Suzy, his name is cute, Suzy is actually sovereign, is in her center. Okay. So at the office, the boss is upset and is raising their voice. And Suzy gets this like activation that the inner child wants to please him, but she's not collapsing into that. She's in her center, she's observing it, she's witnessing it. And maybe she does something to comfort her inner child. Perhaps she takes a couple of breaths, bringing herself to her center, feeling where in her body her center is. And then she says to her inner child, either in words or in like a self-hug, like, I know that you are scared right now. I know that you just want to do whatever he wants. And that's not what we are going to do. That won't serve you. I'm here, the queen, the adult, the sovereign one. I will remain faithful to my own truth. So she's like breathing into her center. She's feeling her spine. She's feeling actually her connection to the ground. She's feeling her heart. And she chooses what to do. And like it might look different ways. It's not like prescription for behavior. What's important here is from which place the behavior, the response comes from. So when it comes from like centered, sovereign place, she might just speak her truth directly to her boss. Like, that's not what we agreed, or whatever the truth of that situation is. Like speaking facts, communicating directly, or she might want to share how it feels actually. If especially it's all contextual, especially when she has like rapport with her boss. She might choose to share something like, you have every right to be upset, and it doesn't feel good to me to be spoken to this way. That's not okay with me. Something like that. And one important thing I want to emphasize here, it doesn't mean that she needs to be like super poised, super calm, super confident. No. She might have a lot of activation. She might even be like shaking. And she might even share this, like, I'm a bit shaken here. Like, I'm a bit shaken here. So I'm going to just give myself some space and I'm going to leave for 5 minutes. It's okay to have this, like, all the internal experience. It doesn't need to be super confident, calm, and poised always. She might have it, the activation, and still, this is super important. I'm so passionate about it, that you might have all the inner reactions and you can still choose from a centered and sovereign place. You don't need to be super calm. It's okay. When you have all these reactions, it doesn't mean that you're not sovereign. As long as you don't collapse, as long as you're witnessing yourself, feeling your center, and choosing from your center, deciding consciously what's the response that you want to have, you are in your sovereignty. So let's go to the second part of the scenario. Suzy comes home and she sees that like, her partner is looking for something nervously and maybe making like sounds that upset her. And she's feeling the activation of the rebellious inner part, like, oh, why is it happening to me? Like, what is it now? Like, you're wrong, I don't want it. She's feeling this, but she's also breathing into her center. She's feeling herself. She's not like hijacked by that activation. She's acknowledging it, of course. And she decides what to do with it. And she might decide like to go to her room for a moment and do some like embodied discharge of this. She might use her voice and like growl and say, I don't like it. She might want to give voice to that activated part, let her express herself. She might do some shaking. This is something I love doing. Like she might do some shaking to release the inner static, the electricity from her system. She might want to do some stretching, do something with her body to release. And then from much calmer place, she might want to ask herself, from which place I want to respond. And for instance, for me, love is the highest value for me. So let's say that for Suzy, it's similar, and she might want to like respond from love. So she might place a hand on her heart and massage her chest a bit and connect with her heart. And then when she comes downstairs to meet her partner, she's like softer, connected to her inner light with her heart open. And you know, like usually just by this, just by her emanation, her radiance, the situation will shift. That's what usually happens, or if not instantly, then by how she responds to him will shift the situation. The important thing here is that she embraced the activated part, she gave it some space, and then she decided from which energy, from which quality she wants to respond. And that's like a quite high level game, because in both of the situations with the boss and with her partner, the other person is also in like activated state. So being able to remain in our sovereignty when also there is activation in the field in someone else, we really need to have like strong inner sovereignty. We need to be able to like see compassionately the inner parts, be aware of them without making them wrong, not collapsing into them, not being under their spell. And like the physical sensation of it is being in the center. So taking a quick look at my notes, I think I've shared everything I wanted to share. I'm inviting you before we end just to tune into yourself. Again, notice in what way you are experiencing your center now and what occurs to you after listening to this or watching this video. Thank you so much. I will be very happy to respond to any questions you might have, or hearing your reflections, your comments. So if you want to share, you are very invited to do it either in the comments, or you can always send me a private message too. Thank you so much.